Listen, today I'm feeling good. Today I feel like I'm going to read some manga. I don't really know what manga to read, so I'm gonna take your guys' recommendations, and I put up a community post and I did that. Why am I doing this video? Well, to be quite honest with you, lately, manga and anime have been getting kinda boring. And I'm not gonna lie, nothing really hits like it used to, and because of this, I basically end up uploading once every 2 months, and the videos end up getting absolutely dog shit views. So that is absolutely incredible. I'm totally not doing this video so I get more views. Okay, but once in a while, it's time to experience a larger display of what the manga world has to offer. So I'm gonna read 20 manga recommendations that have been recommended by you. So if you already missed it, that's too bad because I already have the 20 picked out, and if you commented a little later than when I posted, you probably already missed out as well. So too bad for you. Maybe another time. 20 most requested manga are the ones that are going to be picked. That means the ones that are commented the most are the ones that have the most likes. That kind of doesn't apply to me because I barely get any views. So after sorting out the series I already checked out and a bunch of repeats, I pretty much came up with 20 manga on the spot. So the rules are pretty basic. I'm going to read at least 10 chapters of each recommendation before I move on because I cannot be asked to read the entire series. You have to be out of your mind if you think I'm going to do that. I would spend an entire year making this video and it would get 420 views, and I would probably feel suicidal and almost delete my channel. I'm also going to rank each manga out of 10, and since I don't expect anything to be like a true 10 out of 10 after 10 chapters, like honestly, I don't even think Berserk could do that. I'm going to be a little more lenient with the scale, so a 10 out of 10 would be like, holy shit, this is really good. I'm going to continue reading it. Probably like an introduction similar to Attack on Titan or Death Note or, you know, those series. So if you know basic math, which is asking a lot these days, you'll know this video requires me to read 200 chapters of manga. So in exchange, I ask you for 200 likes. Or better yet, 200,000. Okay, so first we have Golden Kamuy, recommended by IDK-VR3FS. I've heard of this series, but there's nothing really been crazy that I've seen or anything. Just basically heard of it. That's about it. It's somewhat popular request. Well, you know, whatever popular means when you only get 20 comments. I don't really know what more to say. Let's just freaking read it, I guess. Okay, so my first thought, that was actually a really interesting manga concept. I'm not gonna lie, I did not expect it to be that interesting. One thing I will say is the art style is very simplistic. Not that it's bad, it's just very simplistic, so it's nothing that's really pulling me into the series immediately. It's just a really cool concept, pretty cool main character, and the concept slowly starts to build in the first 10 chapters with like the people breaking out of prison and that whole backstory kind of thing. Now, obviously this manga isn't like as popular as, you know, the mainstream anime and manga right now. It's a completed manga as well. Anyways, the story is about a war veteran referred to as Immortal Sugimoto due to his insane accomplishments on the battlefield while suffering life-threatening injuries. So Sugimoto, this protagonist, is basically just trying to raise money for his dead friend's wife, who's suffering from some kind of eye-degenerating disease. So naturally, he goes out searching for gold, and then this old guy comes up to him out of nowhere, drops an entire backstory on him in the first chapter while being drunk, and then later realizes that he f***ed up, but then gets absolutely ripped apart by a grizzly bear. So things happen, and we learn that there's this insane stash of gold that some random dude found by murdering an entire clan of people. And this gold is what pretty much everybody is after right now. The government's after it. The former soldiers that Sugimoto was with are after it. Sugimoto himself is now after it. And yeah, that's pretty much the entire purpose of the story. Does this seem similar to you to some other really mainstream shonen anime that revolves around finding a great treasure? It wasn't that crazy. It was pretty good. I'll probably maybe kind of not get back to it. 8 out of 10 for me. Next up, Rurouni Kenshin, recommended by Miguel Osvaldo Flores Domingo 8911. I have absolutely no idea what to expect from Rurouni Kenshin because all I know about the series is that there is a swordsman named Kenshin. This should be pretty fun. I'm actually kind of excited. Okay, first of fucking all, I did not realize the author of this manga was charged for committing such acts as displayed on the screen. So before I even speak on my thoughts about these 10 chapters, let us first and foremost separate the art from the artist. First thing that stands out to me, there is a lot of comedy. Now, I don't have anything against the occasional giggle, but sometimes this shit gets out of hand. It reminds me of The Gray Man, but if something reminds me of The Gray Man in any way, it's a really good sign more than anything. So from what I understand is that Rurouni Kenshin is a story that takes place a little after the samurai era where Musashi was, you know, him. Now things are a little different and the title of him has been passed down to this guy. His name, Hitokiri Batosai 1. Listen, I don't even fucking know what his name is, but the point is, this man is the man. He's him. Also, he's almost 30 years old. Anyways, long ago there was this samurai named Hitokiri Batosai. He was vicious and he killed an entire clan and literally changed the whole era into something completely different. Remember I said this Kenshin guy was him? No, he's literally him. He's Hitokiri Batosai. I spoiled the first chapter for you, I'm sorry, but my blind ass didn't even see that the dude they showed in the first panel was literally a carbon copy of Kenshin, so my dumbass just completely missed that. But as I continued to read these 10 chapters, I found myself thoroughly engaged into Kenshin and Kaoru and even this little kid who they picked up along the way. And I'm not gonna lie, I actually really enjoyed the mystery behind Kenshin, and that's kind of what made it for me. This dude seems like an absolute nobody, seems like just this dork who's like goofing off, but when he goes serious, he's pretty fucking cool. Reminds me of like classic shonen. It's a very classic manga, if you can even classify it as that. But overall, I mean, I'm giving this a 9 out of 10. It's basically a bunch of cool fights with the protagonist that seems to have a lot going for him. But I don't have a lot of things going for me, and time is definitely one of those. So let's just move on. Sakamoto Days and Dandadan were recommended by poorly digitally drawn GigaChad8550, but I've already read Dandadan, so I'm just gonna do Sakamoto Days. I've heard of this manga. I've heard it's like kind of like John Wick if it was in a manga. That sounds pretty cool to me. From what I know, it's also really popular, and you know what I typically think of series that are popular. Let's see where this thing ends up. Sakamoto Days, very, very interesting. I must say the concept of this manga is actually really great. Basically, you have this former hitman who falls in love and decides to raise a family instead of continuing his hitman days. So it basically goes from looking like John Wick to looking like Lizzo, and now he's fighting off being killed by his former co-workers for going against the rule of not quitting. Except despite being fat as fuck, he's still insanely strong. And he's got an entire shooting range hidden in his store. I found this read to be comedic and wholesome more than anything. It wasn't like an outstanding story, crazy characters, or anything like that. I just found myself genuinely entertained. I found it funny. Kind of like Dandadan. That's what it really reminded me of, to be completely honest. Just a lot less of the weird stuff. I genuinely enjoyed these 10 chapters, but there is one thing that is absolutely hilarious about this manga, and it's that everything they do is over the top for absolutely no reason, and I kind of like it. Like, when Sakamoto's wife got tired of his killing, she basically dumps him, and literally in the same moment proceeds to walk away and then jump off the building. Now, I will say that reading 10, 11 chapters of this manga, it was actually starting to kind of pick up right when I stopped reading, so I might have to come back to it and give my full thoughts on it in a different video. Sakamoto's character is absolutely hilarious, and he has quite the entertaining personality, plus his family's really wholesome, so overall, solid 8 out of 10. Okay, this one I'm seriously excited to check out because a lot of people have been saying, or were saying, or are saying, that this is the female version of Berserk. The main character is a female Guts, and this recommendation is Claymore, recommended by Attack on Tiago, who also happened to recommend like 10 other manga. So I just said to myself, I'll pick one of them, and I ended up picking Claymore for the reasons I just mentioned. If this is anything like Berserk, I better be giving it a 10 out of 10, so let's see what this is all about. Literally, I just finished 10 chapters of Claymore. Of the 4 manga now that I've read so far, I think this is my favorite one. Claymore is absolutely fantastic. I loved the concept of this story. So what we have are these creatures called Yoma, and they've been around since pretty much the beginning of time. These Yoma eat humans. Pretty similar to the concept of another really popular manga. But these Yoma eat the humans, and the humans basically have no way of counteracting this fact. They're basically lower in the food chain, that's about it. Like, they can't do anything about it, except for the fact that there are these half-breeds, these hybrids between the Yoma and the humans called Claymores, and they're the only people that have the ability to actually kill a Yoma. Now, what's cool about this half-human, half-monster type thing is that it dives into the idea of being a monster and letting the monster within you take over, and it's really interesting to see this through the character of Claire, who's the protagonist of this story. And she had a past as being a human, but now she is a Claymore, and seeing her as a Claymore, the emotionless expressions she has, even though she still kind of cares for humans and feels sympathy for them, is really interesting, especially when later on we learn that eventually a Claymore will be taken over completely by the monster within them. So just guess where the story is going to go at that point. But seeing Claire fight for her humanity while also fighting against the Yoma, it's just really entertaining for some reason. I like the aesthetic of the story. The art is a little bit mediocre, but I'm not going to get too concerned over that because obviously art develops a lot as the series progresses. So I'm not too worried about the artwork. Overall, Claymore, probably the best one yet. I'm going to give Claymore a 9 out of 10. I really liked Claymore so far. Oh boy, here we go. An Kurosawa novel. Pluto, recommended by Anand Kumar-EB7. I've read 2 Kurosawa manga, Monster, 20th Century Boys, and if Pluto is anything like those 2 manga, I'm probably not going to stop at 10 chapters. Okay, I can confirm, I really do not want to stop at 10 chapters, but I kind of had to for this video. I am 100% finishing this manga after this video. Okay, first of all, Pluto is getting an anime. I didn't even know that. Like, I should have known this a long time ago because I'm a huge fan of Kurosawa's manga, but I did not know that Pluto is getting an anime, so I guess I hopped into this at the perfect time. I'll be caught up before the anime comes out. I'm gonna cut to the chase. This is absolutely a 10 out of 10 manga. So K_sauce recommends 3 Days of Happiness. I couldn't find this manga on the website to read manga on, so it's either one of 2 things. A really unknown manga or a hentai. I don't know how to explain this. I don't know how to get my feelings across about this manga. Well, first of all, it's not actually a manga, it's a light novel, but there's a manga adaptation of the light novel. So the light novel is called 3 Days of Happiness, but the manga is called I Sold My Life for 10,000 yen a year. And it's something I did not expect based off the title. The title suggested to me that this was going to be an isekai or a romance or both, but it was just one of them. It was a romance. Thankfully, it was not an isekai because if it was, I would probably not have gotten through 10 chapters. I've never been a fan of romance in manga, to be quite honest with you. I've said it in multiple videos, but this was different. I have no way of explaining why. I don't know how to just express why it was good. It was just really good for some reason. It's so simple. The artwork looks like it's drawn very simplistically. There's no crazy narrative, but it's just so good. I don't know how to explain it. So long story short, the protagonist sells 30 years of his life for a bunch of money and he's left with only 3 months to live. I don't know why he did something like this. I think he's kind of half suicidal, but I would never do something like that. This guy has no life. He's just a boring, pathetic 20-year-old with nothing going for him. From what we understand, he has no parents, he has no friends, and literally nobody cares about him. Now, through these experiences, he's forced to do things outside his comfort zone and face his past regrets. And it's pretty wholesome and funny, but it's also pretty dark when you think about it. There was literally one point where I just lay there and I was like so starstruck, and I low-key kind of teared up. Like in 10 chapters, I was getting a little bit emotional. And if you've read it, it's the scene with Himeno and the letter, if you know what I'm talking about. No spoilers here, but my god, that was insanity. This manga is only 16 chapters, so if you want to go ahead and read it in like a few hours, go ahead. It literally will not take you that long at all, and I might honestly just finish it pretty quickly after. The subtle beauty of the manga, the relationship between the protagonist and his companion Miyagi, 9.5 out of 10. Victorite recommends me to read Ajin Demi-Human because it has one of the most menacing and goated villains ever. I think I've heard of this villain. I'm not quite sure who he is or what he does, obviously, because I've not read the freaking manga, but I'm about to. So I'm actually really excited. If this antagonist doesn't do anything in the first 10 chapters, that would suck, but I really hope he does, so let's just do this. Okay, I'm literally writing this script after just 4 chapters because I could not wait. This manga is fucking unbelievable. It's a 10 out of 10, there's no doubt about it. I probably said this way too many times in this video already. The suspense is insane. The antagonist that everybody was talking about in the comments of the manga website he's literally shrouded in mystery. Completely reminds me of Johann Lieber, just like 50 years older. The protagonist is already developing so well, and overall, I'm just on the edge of my seat from beginning to end. This could honestly go down as a top 10 manga for me once I'm finished, and it's very, very seldom, if it ever actually happens, that I make this claim about a manga after just 10 chapters. So Ajin Demi-Human is about Demi-humans. These creatures are basically mysteries that nobody has any idea about. Well, actually, that's a lie. They know that demi-humans are immortal and that they don't harm humans, at least for the most part. So the seemingly regular kid in school, Kei Nagai, is just doing his own thing. You know, he's being the smartass that he is. He's trying to become a doctor. And then all of a sudden, he gets hit by a truck. The start of at least 30% of manga at this point. Obviously, since he's the main character, he gets revived. Well, he doesn't actually get revived because he was a demi-human the entire time. I don't know why, but I didn't see this coming. So because demi-humans are so rare, they get hunted down by people who either try experimenting on them or selling them for money. Humans can experiment on demi-humans because they're pretty much immortal, so they can kill them, they can extract their organs, they can just full-on torture them, like to the point where they're literally gonna go insane. But they will not die, they're simply immortal. So Kain is absolutely incredibly loyal best friend Kai. This guy is just an absolute G. They run away from pretty much everybody, and just let me take a second to once again appreciate Kai, man. This guy, if everybody had a best friend like him, this world would be a lot different. I'm very surprised at what happens in just 10 chapters of this manga. The plot twist, the revelations of demi-humans, the different stories that come about as to what actually happened between demi-humans, and it's pretty crazy. It's a 10 out of 10 in my opinion, and that's a pretty easy claim for me to make at this point. Ajin Demi-Human is f***ing fantastic. Read it. Okay, don't ask me why I put this here, but let's just say I was kind of curious. Okay, I will say it's not what you think it is, but it's absolutely fucking true. The art looks like it was drawn by an 8th grader, and there is way too much text for me to care. I said I was gonna read 10 chapters of every manga, but after 1 chapter of Molester Man, I gave up. I am not reading a manga that has the dialogue of Hunter x Hunter and the artwork of a 2nd grader. Also, why is she calling the guy Mr. Molester? I'm not even gonna bother explaining this manga, just don't read it. Fucking 0 out of 10, man. Don't read Molester Man. Pratik5656 tells me to read Tomodachi Game manga. It will be a great read. So Tomodachi means friend, so friend game. Whatever that means, a game with friends. It's another manga that I heard of but never really considered reading. No idea what the concept is, so it's yet another blind leap into a new series. Should be fun. This is getting hard for me to record because it's like a few days after I've actually read the manga. But what the actual fuck? I'm convinced that the author of this manga is a genius. This Tomodachi Game is absolutely one of the coolest concepts for a manga I've ever seen. I probably sound like a broken record at this point because I'm giving like everything a 10 out of 10. But take another 10 out of 10. I want to slap it in your face. You guys have incredible manga recommendations. This shit is great. So there are these 5 friends. The protagonist Yuichi is a pretty cool guy and is relatively smart. Plus, we learn later on, he pulls all the bitches. Then there's Tenji, who's a smart, stoic, and appreciated guy. Yutori, who's got a great big personality. Shio, who's this really annoying chick. And Shibe, who's just Shibe. They're all juniors in high school trying to save up for a school trip that costs 2 million yen. So as insane as it is for a class to raise 20,000 US dollars, they did it somehow. Except it all got stolen. So some stuff happens and the 5 get cast into a game out of nowhere, and the goal of that game is to recover this lost 2 million yen. However, it's also revealed that one of the 5 stole the money, and because of them, they each had to recover a 5th of the money through the game. So they're basically going through the game knowing there's a traitor among them who is responsible for putting them in the game in the first place. Remember, they're best friends, but one of them is fucking everybody up, and throughout this whole thing, these friends go from trusting each other to completely betraying them, AOT style. I mean, the 10th chapter was something else. To be that attached to characters in that short amount of time is definitely showing of a very strong narrative and very strong characters. The main character, I thought he was just some regular ass high schooler. I did not know he had this kind of backstory to him. The concept of Tomodachi Game is genius. I'd recommend it to everyone. As I mentioned before, it's a 10 out of 10. Okay, this one is gonna be pretty funny. Dead Rock by Hiro Mashima, recommended by Full Metal Bro. Hiro Mashima, you know who that is, man? Same author as Fairy Tail. If you didn't see my recent tier list video, Fairy Tail was my favorite manga. It was absolutely incredible. I loved every part. This should be pretty controversial. Okay, so I kind of fucked up because, as you know, I'm trying to read 10 chapters of every manga here, but I didn't realize that when I put Dead Rock as one of the recommendations, the manga literally only has 2 chapters. It is brand new. It came out last month. Now, obviously, I can't be asked to forcefully pick another manga and read 10 chapters of something else, so I'll just take the 2 chapters I can get here and quickly read that and give you my thoughts. Just kidding, I've already read it, so I might as well give you my thoughts now. The first thing I thought about when reading Dead Rock was that it was just another fairy tale. Pretty much all the characters match fairy tale characters. The protagonist looks like Natsu if you went on a 2-week vacation to Mexico and got a tan. The main girl has Natsu's power, but Lucy's build, if you know what I'm saying. But the more I read it, the more I realized that this story had a lot more potential than fairy tale could ever hope for. The world building already seems like it's going in the right direction, and the characters so far are not even close to being as lame as fairy tale. Also, the protagonist actually has some mystery, and he's not just some dumbass annoying 10-year-old like Natsu. Even though he's a dragon, the man is a lot better, and I mean a lot. So we're in this setting known as the demon realm, and then this random character shows up, tells everybody he's God, and tells them that if they pass this school exam or whatever, like hunter exam type shit known as Dead Rock, which is also pretty much impossible to do, by the way. There's like 2 out of 200 people that make it. He will grant these people who pass the school access to the human world. So the protagonist Yakuto being a Natsu copy, you'd expect him to have the obviously boring goal of passing Dead Rock and becoming a keeper of the human realm or whatever, but he actually doesn't care about that. Instead, his goal is to kill God. This should be real interesting. It's hard to assess based on 2 chapters, but so far it's actually pretty fucking cool. 7 out of 10. So Infinity X Riz recommends Usogui, and I've heard of this manga. I know Uso means lie, so does that have something to do with the name? We'll see what happens. I'm really interested to see what this manga is all about. I've heard some good things about it, but I just gotta read at this point. Okay, I don't really know what to say for this manga. Like, it's good, but nothing insane happened in the first 10 chapters. I mean, the concept is very intriguing and original, I will give it that. And obviously that is kind of subjective, but in my opinion, it's a pretty interesting concept. It can seem a bit bland at times, and I think it's really creative, and if done right, could turn into something really good. So picture gambling, you know, you bet your money on an outcome that will eventually earn you more money, right? Now take that concept and twist it into life and death, and you have Usogui. There are these psychotic motherfuckers who try to gamble with people's lives by using money as a means of manipulation. But then you have this protagonist, this absolute genius Giga Chad named Bach, or his alias, the Lie Eater, which also happens to translate to Usogui in Japanese. This man goes around exposing the absolute fuck out of these dudes. There's literally only one time in these 10 chapters where he even remotely shows any morsel of human expression on his face. He's like a monster in human flesh. The best part of Usogui for me was definitely Bach, since Kaji is just this little bitch, and the villain so far is this psychotic old dude which no one can actually care about. So it's not bad, but it's not insane either. I just give it a 7 out of 10. Pandora Hearts, another manga that I've not quite heard the most of. Akakishin Jutsu, thank you for the recommendation. I'm pretty interested to see what this thing is about because I've heard absolutely nothing about it. It's probably another one of those unknown manga, or I'm just an idiot. Let's see what it's all about. I might be jumping to a really stupid conclusion right now, but I'm reading Pandora Hearts. I know I said 10 chapters for each manga, but I still have 1 chapter to go, and I actually have to make this right now. I'm too hyped right now. I'm too energetic at what I just read. This is absolutely insanity. You probably know how much I love The Gray Man. I made so many videos on The Gray Man. I've only made like 2 videos on The Gray Man, let's be honest, but I love The Gray Man. This manga is literally like The Gray Man after chapter 200. The art style is almost exactly the same. The comedy is so similar. The main character is like 1 for 1 with Alan Walker. And this is literally in 9 chapters of Pandora Hearts. I should probably calm down a little bit, but this manga is absolutely blowing me away. There are an insane number of plot twists. The foreshadowing is right in front of me, but I still have no idea what everything means. And already there have been times where the foreshadowing has literally already revealed itself in the form of a twist. This is the craziest shit I've ever read in the first 9 chapters of a manga. I think this is the most insane introduction to any series I've ever seen. Attack on Titan had a really energetic, insane introduction, but for Pandora Hearts to create such a ridiculous narrative in such a short amount of time is absolutely unheard of. I don't care about the comedic moments, I can handle that kind of stuff. It's a little bit annoying, but it doesn't take away from what the story has to offer. Yes, the comedy gets in the way of these revelations, but that's the entire point because they're not supposed to reveal the stuff to us right now. So in case my frantic fanboy explanation of this manga isn't evident enough, this is a 10 out of 10 right off the bat. No doubts about it. I might even say 11 out of 10 if that's even possible, but this is probably the best thing I've read so far in the video. I might be exaggerating. Pluto is very close as well, but holy fuck, this manga is unbelievable. So it's a very simple concept. There's this young kid, Oz Vesalius. He lives in a very rich family. He's basically part of like a royal family, and he's having this ceremony for his coming of age, but eventually it turns into this horrific incident where he's literally like forced to do some crazy shit. Like one of them is he accidentally cuts down his valet who was like his best friend, and this valet ends up... all this crazy shit just ends up happening, and he gets banished into this realm that's known as the Abyss. We don't know why he's banished into the Abyss, but the people who do the ceremony literally say to him, your sin is simply your very being. They don't explain what he's done. It's literally just his being that is the sin that caused him to be banished into this giant abyss. So in the abyss, he meets this young girl named Alice, and she's just this really weird girl. She's also got like this part of her that's some freakish rabbit that looks straight out of a horror movie. Eventually, Oz escapes the abyss, but so much stuff happens. I don't even want to like spoil it for anybody. It's so hard for me to even give you a base of where this story starts because it literally starts right off the bat. Literally, all I can tell you is that this kid Oz is from a royal family. He gets banished into the abyss in the first chapter because of something that we quite don't understand until a little bit later. I don't know why people haven't talked about this manga more. I'm 100% gonna finish it after this video and make an entire video on it. Insanity, 10 out of 10, no doubts. Okay, finally a manga I actually understand, that I've actually heard of, and it's the same guy who recommended one of the other mangas, so lucky you motherfucker, you're here twice. Elliot the Mastermind recommends for the second time Fire Punch, a manga by the same author as Chainsaw Man, Tatsuki Fujimoto. This man is an absolute troll sometimes, but his story writing is also pretty damn good, so Fire Punch I have somewhat high expectations of. No, fucking no, please, this is the first chapter. This is the okay, this is by far the most ridiculous manga, most ridiculous story, most ridiculous thing I've ever laid my eyes on. Fire Punch by Tatsuki Fujimoto is the craziest story I've ever witnessed in my entire life. You literally saw me stop after chapter 1 because Agni's sister Luna was about to create a baby with him. That was the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen in my life. Until chapter 7. Because in chapter 7, this dude walks into the room with these two kids who are basically just tools for sex. He walks in with two dogs, and he asks the kids to have sex with the dog. Fujimoto, are you good, bro? Are you okay? What is this madness you have done? This is the most obscene story I've ever read in my entire life. Now, that being said, it's actually really good. It's actually phenomenal. It is way better than Chainsaw Man in my opinion. Not to say Chainsaw Man is bad, but I really just like Fire Punch a lot more. Right from the get-go, they start the point of the story, they give us what we need to know about the characters, and they just give us the setting and give Agni a goal after pretty much one chapter, which is completely different from Denji and Chainsaw Man. So I really like Agni. His character design is incredibly cool. So basically we're living in the world as it is right now, except we're kind of in like this ice age where there's no food. And Agni and Luna, siblings, they live in this village where there is pretty much no food. Everyone's dying of like starvation, and they're pretty much all freezing to death at the same time. Now Agni and Luna have a special ability of regeneration because they're one of the people known as blessed, which are the ones who are, well, obviously blessed. They have powers of fire, electricity, iron, regeneration. Like there's a bunch of stuff they have abilities for, and Agni and Luna just happen to have the power of regeneration. So what they do is they cut off their own limbs, and since they can regenerate, that's not a problem. Now you might be asking, what do they do with their own limbs? Yeah, this manga is about fucking cannibalism and feeding your own limbs to the people who are about to die in the village. I guess that's a pretty good thing to do until an entire corporation known as Bahimberg descends upon you and absolutely burns down the entire village. So the entire village gets burned down. Agni is in despair because he pretty much loses everybody around him, but because he has really fast regenerative abilities, unlike his sister who ends up dying, because her regeneration abilities are too slow, Agni has to constantly be burned alive and survive by regenerating every single time. So imagine, for 11 straight years, you are experiencing the pain of being burned alive. This is what I mean by this is the most ridiculous manga I've ever seen, because the main character literally earns his power by being on fire the entire time. So Agni earns the name Fire Punch, I guess, because he has a fire punch because he's always on fire. And he pretty much has the goal of absolutely eviscerating and incinerating the people who did the same thing to his village. Really, really cool concept. I'm curious to see where the story goes. This manga is freaking phenomenal, as ridiculously weird as it gets. This is definitely the weirdest thing I've seen Fujimoto come up with. Chainsaw Man is nothing compared to this in terms of weirdness, and in terms of writing, this is a 9 out of 10 manga. Simply spectacular. Itoshi no Karin, I have no idea what it means in Japanese, but Straw Hat 4 recommended it to me, so I'm gonna read it. Itoshi no Karin, I hope it's not a doujin. I hope it's like a pretty solid manga. God, I'm praying it's not a doujin. Okay, so you have this wimpy 20-year-old gardener who falls in love with this girl from his work, and the girl also starts liking him, so you can probably see where this story is going. The guy ends up fumbling the bag many times. The girl also kind of ends up fumbling the bag, but not nearly as much as the guy. And basically, they just go about flirting and somehow not getting together, even though it's blindly off. And obviously, because it's a romance anime, they gotta take their sweet time, extend the story, and just not do anything except their normal daily activities, even though they like each other. Typical romance manga, there's nothing really I can say. 5 out of 10. Simon, whatever, just puts Nana.
Hey yo, what the fuck?
Okay, just when I said you guys had really good manga recommendations, this shit shows up. What the fuck did you recommend me with Nana? I was just casually searching up Nana to read the synopsis and see the genres before coming to the sad realization that this manga is a shoujo. Gladly it's not a hentai or a doujin, but it's a shoujo. And despite the massive red flag, I still gave it a shot. And I really shouldn't have, because this manga is absolutely trash. Okay, it's not trash like Molester Man trash, but I just can't be bothered to read this long dialogue from this woman and her just dumb romantic experiences. Like, listen, I don't care. I have no interest in shoujo manga. I'm sorry for the person who recommended this, who somehow enjoys this manga, but the art sucks and is not for me. Every chapter is like 200 pages as well. There's absolutely no way I'm getting through this. I can't even be asked, so 1 out of 10 at best. Okay, another manga I've heard of, SD Sartor 1942, Akumetsu. However, the reason I'm reading this manga is because the Masked Man absolutely adores it, and it sounds really cool, so it could be a really good manga, it could be kind of mid, because it's the first 10 chapters, so I'll have no idea what the entire series is about. You get the idea by now. The Masked Man is right. This manga is nothing short of exhilarating. So you have this guy in high school named Sho who's like pretty normal. You also have this girl named Sheena who ends up becoming a prostitute to make money. Off to a very great start already. Now the dude she's working for is like this high class, you know, leader of Japan or whatever. But the dude is like a hybrid of Donkey Kong and Gamabunta, and he's wearing panties on his face. He's one of those characters you just want to jump through the screen and absolutely gomu no pistol their ugly ass, but obviously you can't. But instead, the main character does it for you. This dude, this protagonist, has got to have the coolest mask since COVID-19 variant 855. The Masked Man, not the YouTuber, the mask, like, he destroys the entire facility of the higher-ups of Japan who are responsible for a 300 trillion yen debt, and he literally shoves an axe through the head of the dude. He tears the panty on his head in half, absolutely destroys the guy, drags the body outside, ends up blowing himself up somehow, and then shows up to school the next day like nothing happened. Like, this manga is absolutely badass. The main character is so cool, and the Masked Man was definitely speaking facts when he said this manga is peak, because it really is. 9 out of 10. So, I believe this is the only manga here that I've actually already checked out, just not enough of it to not include it in this video, and that is the one recommended by King Monelius7777, One Punch Man. I've watched the anime's first season, that's about all I know. First 10 chapters should be like the same thing as the anime, just give me a quick refresher on what I was reading. And if I'm even more interested in it, I'll probably read the entire manga. Okay, One Punch Man is absolutely nothing like I remember it being. This manga is way better than what I remember the anime being. Maybe it's the incredible artwork from Yusuke Murata, who's obviously regarded as one of the better, if not one of the best, manga artists ever. Now, he's not writing the story, but he's responsible for the artwork. In 10 chapters, you can't really make out too much story of One Punch Man. There's just Saitama, who's Saitama. Everyone knows Saitama. I'm not going to go over the story of One Punch Man. Everybody understands the premise of it. But I must say I really enjoyed it a lot more the second time around in the manga than the first time through the anime. So much so that I'll probably end up completing it when the time comes. It's great to finally see a simplistic but perfect protagonist for a story. And I've been hearing really good things about Saitama towards the end of the story. So this is just hilarious without even trying to be. Like, there's so many manga in this video that I've read that just try to be funny, over the top, but they're not funny at all. One Punch Man, it doesn't even try to do it, and it does it. That's how great it is. So it's a 9 out of 10 in my books. Okay, so this guy recommended something, and I realized that I put Pandora Hearts twice, so lucky you. I now get to put the manga that you recommended. Cassigo1375 recommends Gantz, and As the Gods Will. I'm just going to read Gantz because he gave 2 recommendations, and I've heard that it's a really, really good manga. So, Gantz it is. 10 chapters, let's do this. This manga is absolutely redonkulous. I thought Fire Punch was crazy, even though Fire Punch is probably still crazier than Gantz. Gantz is ridiculous. I was so confused when I was reading this manga. I completely tunnel vision through the 10 chapters to the point where when I was finished the 10th chapter, I couldn't even believe it. It felt like I read 2 chapters. So you have this dude who's basically reading his own hentai magazine or whatever, and he's in the train station basically just doing his daily life activities. And then this random homeless guy who's drunk just lies down on the train tracks. And he sees this guy from his former school or something. And the guy from his former school goes to help the homeless guy. Now this dude, the main character K, is an absolute degenerate. The man does nothing. He hates everybody, and that's the kind of life he's living. Now, the friend recognizes him, and now they're both trying to help the homeless dude get off the train tracks, and they do end up doing it, in fact. And then both of them proceed to get run over by the train. So, you think the main characters aren't going to die in the first chapter? Obviously, you're right. Is it an isekai? Fuck no, because the 2 main characters respawn. Like, they literally respawn in front of a portal with a bunch of other people, and now they're trapped in this game where they have to kill aliens. This manga is absolutely ridiculous. This premise is crazy. I don't even know what to think about it. It was pretty enjoyable, but at the same time, I'm absolutely lost. I really do think that they can expand more on it and just make it a really good story. But for 10 chapters, I'll go 7.5 out of 10. Okay, so I got a recommendation for Dorohedoro, but I cannot find the comment for it. It was probably deleted, which sucks, because I was really looking forward to reading Dorohedoro. So I don't know who recommended it to me, but because I really want to read it and actually see what it's all about, we're doing Dorohedoro. Don't remember who recommended it, but I've heard really good things about this manga. I've heard it in many top 10s. I have no idea what to expect. I've never even checked it out, even been exposed to it at all, but this should be one of the better ones of the list. So I wouldn't go as far as to say is it's one of the better ones of the list, but it's pretty cool. There wasn't anything that really stood out to me aside from just the bizarre nature of the story, and the main conflict kind of gets dragged on through these 10 chapters, and I'd pretty much say that 80% of what I read was just the 2 main characters living life, eating food, chilling, and basically just doing their daily activities. There wasn't anything that really made me completely shocked out of my mind, or that really made me consider this manga to have insane potential. Even though based on what people say about it, it probably does. But it's just nothing out of the ordinary. So you have this normal woman named Nikaido who's got some solid combat ability, and this crocodile head motherfucker named Kaimon. Now Kaimon was originally a human, but he turned into a crocodile, or whatever the hell this happens to be, by the spell of a sorcerer. So these sorcerers are basically like wizards. They can cast spells on people, on things, and just do magical things. Pretty simple power system by the looks of it. And they seem to be like the antagonists of the story, who live in a different world from Nikaido and Kaimon, the protagonists. I guess you can call that the human world, whereas Nikaido and Kaimon live in this place known as the Hole. Now Kaimon is on the hunt to find the sorcerer who fucked up his looks by shoving people down his throat. Why would he do something like that? Because this man literally has a living human in his throat. It's bizarre but somewhat compelling. So far, I'd say 7.5 out of 10. The 20th manga. By the time this video is up, I'm gonna have read 20 new manga. That's insane to think about, because in the last 3 years, I don't think I've done that. Last recommendation, I'd Fac Senya, Onani Master Kurokawa. So, the first fucking chapter of this manga. Just end the video now, for fuck's sake. So this is a wholesome story about a guy who goes to middle school and happens to often use the washroom. And not just any washroom. He goes into the girls' washroom. And in the girls' washroom, he jerks off. To girls in this class. Oh boy, this was quite a bizarre experience, and it took me quite a while to read all 20 of the manga, even though it was only like 10 chapters for most of them. It was still a very long process. I imagine editing this video is going to take the living life out of me, but I hope it's worth it. If it ends up getting like 400 views, I might just delete my channel. If you liked the video, give it a like, and if you want me to make another manga recommendations video, which after the last recommendation, I don't know if I should be doing something like that, get this video to 10,000 freaking likes, and I will do another manga recommendation video, or a manhwa recommendation video, or a hentai